We all know there are a million different ways to make a living, but on this show, we are curious about those businesses that you might not know about. We're going to take a deep dive every week and talk to a successful person in their field to learn about how they got their start and how they continue to make it in their space. Join me and learn more about the business of. Welcome back to the business of, and today we're going to be talking with Charlie Cervone, who is the licensing and business development manager for North America for Diner Music. So welcome, Charlie.
Thanks for having me.
That's a long title.
It is.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that means?
Sure, yeah. The Diner Music is a production music library based out of New York City. We're sort of one arm of a two-pronged company.
Okay.
That provides sort of an all-encompassing music solution for projects. And my role is, as licensing and business development manager for North America, is to propel the business forward, to grow the business, and also to identify licensing opportunities. And once those opportunities are identified, to nurture them and turn them into synchronization licenses, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Cool. So what sort of projects do you kind of work on?
Yeah, I work on all sorts of different sort of creative projects. So, we're talking here about syncing music to picture, syncing music to podcasts. So anywhere that you can put music with or inside of another project, those are the sorts of things that I work on every day. So I'm constantly trying to find, places to put our music. We're also adding to our library all the time, finding composers. So.
And is the music mostly just, sorry, I don't know how to phrase this. The music that you're looking for, is it mostly just instrumental, or is it also have lyrics to it as well?
So it is with the Diner Music, it's mostly instrumental, but we do find music that has vocals. One of the things that you kind of brush up against are sort of union kind of stuff going on. So a lot of our clients are seeking either specifically union vocalists or specifically non-union vocalists. And with non-union vocalists, you don't have to pay those extra fees, right? Which brings the licensing rates down.
Right.
So the vocals that we have in our library are recorded overseas.
Okay.
So we specifically pursue vocalists that are recorded overseas.
And so do you get to travel overseas in order to help facilitate that?
I get to travel overseas, but not to facilitate that.
Okay. Even better.
Yeah. It's amazing how, now with the everything is so wired in, you can do everything without traveling.
Yeah.
Especially after the pandemic. It's really changed the game.
Really, yeah. And when you're going after licensing, why would you pick a particular song or a particular composer other than the non-union versus union?
Sure. In terms of projects, we try to have a well-rounded, highly curated selection of music. You have to be well-rounded. You have to have all sorts of different genres, styles, feels, because you never know what's going to pop up. But typically in advertising, especially, broadcast advertising, there are trends and there are, sort of certain things that work and certain things that don't.
Yep.
To filter out certain types of music, you kind of have to have your finger on the pulse of what's happening both in the ad world but also in the film and TV world. So we're always sort of specifically looking to curate our library with music that is needed.
Smart.
Yeah.
And are you a musician yourself?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my specialty is bass.
Okay.
So I'm a bassist. I went to Berklee College of Music, got my degree in bass performance, electric bass performance. And I moved to New York from Boston to become a rock star and sort of slipped and fell into this line of work.
Okay. Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about how you got into this line of work from wanting to be a rock star.
Sure, yeah. I actually got an internship through Universal Music Publishing Group in New York. working with the film and TV department there. And that was, my idea was to try to learn more about this facet of the music industry that I didn't really know about. I convinced the school to give me credit for doing this internship, which I got. And the internship led into a job. I guess I was a good intern, I guess. And, what was great was that, when you move to New York, you really need to figure out a way to pay the bills. And I was lucky to find something that really put me into the deep end of that's essentially one of the biggest music companies in the world, representing some of the most popular songwriters in the world. And I got, thrown into the deep end. So I got to meet all kinds of incredible people at the top of their game. And it really sort of sparked a passion for that side of things. Not that I didn't want to still play, and did.
Do you still play?
I am for hire.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I do. I play occasionally.
All right.
Things go.
Yeah.
It ebbs and flows.
Right.
But I love recording. I work on projects. People send me projects to record bass on, and I always love to play any opportunity I get. So.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm in a yacht rock tribute band.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Any favorite songs of yours?
Yeah, it's embarrassing. There's a couple songs by Ambrosia that I really, really enjoy playing.
All right. So tell me a little bit more about how your day-to-day looks. Like, what are you doing to help propel the business forward? And where are you looking for trends in order to
Sure.
round out your assortment?
So this line of work is very competitive.
Yeah.
So as time has gone by, especially in the last probably 5 to 10 years, it's been a lot easier for creators to create music at home, quality music. So really what we try to do is try to find creative ways, thinking outside the box to engage our clients, to get them interested. Before the pandemic, there was a lot of travel and meeting with big advertising agencies and production companies, that sort of thing. Showing them our music, showing them projects that we've done. But we've had to get a little creative and figure out new ways to engage folks. And really, it's a relationship-based business. You go out there and you try to make a lasting impression with people so that they know that they can trust you and come to you. And of course, the music has to speak for itself.
Yeah. What are one of the projects that you've worked on that you're most proud of?
There's a couple that are going on right now. There is a recent Adidas spot for Candace Parker.
Okay.
And she's like having, the time of her life right now. Congrats, Candace.
Yeah.
So we did a really great Adidas spot. We synced a piece to that. One of the fun ones that I did recently was Captain Obvious. So we did he had it was a safe booking.
Yep.
You practice safe booking, I think it was called. And it was sort of like a 90s sex education video. And that's like right up our alley in terms of, musical style somehow. So, But yeah, I get to work on huge brands. I get to work on, different sort of network, Netflix, Amazon kind of stuff. There's Dr. Death was one that we had a track in.
Okay.
Which was kind of cool. So yeah, I'm all over the board.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
What is one of the hardest parts of your role and your job within this industry?
Yeah, I think that one of the hardest parts is really trying to stay ahead of the competition. Mm-hmm. Like I said, in terms of licensing, music licensing, it seems like people's access to music has made people feel like music is sort of a right. Right, and I think that licensing fees have been coming down. Subscription services,
Right.
are now part of our competition. So what we're really trying to do is trying to raise awareness on the value of music. So, and look, music licensing is not the most interesting thing in the world to a lot of people. I find it terribly interesting, but, kind of really raising awareness writ large about what music is worth and what that creative, talent ought to be compensated.
And so how do you do that? How do you show that there is such great value within music talent? Because to your point, everybody has access to music these days. I feel like everybody is not a DJ per se, but definitely is able to curate a playlist or feels like they have, their own idea about what music is. Very few people, I feel like, listen to the radio anymore. You're not relying on those sorts of people to curate your list. You're finding your own music. So how do you kind of compete within that space?
So one thing that we do, which I think is really cool, is that we customize. We have the ability to customize our music. So whereas, something that a lot of people don't know, right? What we're talking about as it pertains to the Dyna music is essentially what is called stock music.
Okay.
And I think that there might be some negative connotations that come along with just that idea of stock music, right? But really what that means is that the music is in stock. That's essentially what that term means. It's sitting there waiting for use. But what it is it's, at least as far as our library is concerned, these are original compositions that were created specifically for a purpose. So that being said, they hold intrinsic value. And then what we can do is add value to those tracks. Creative value by being able to customize them specifically for whatever project it is that we're working on. So a lot of companies don't have that ability. We own our music or completely control it outright. And we have access to the actual sessions or splits and stems, the little pieces that the music is made out of. And we're able to take the foundational building blocks of a piece and customize it, tailor it to any project, which really sort of raises production value for folks. When you feel like the music and your project are intertwined, it really elevates production value. So, we're passionate about music, and I think that that comes out in the work that we do.
So what would be an example of customization? Would it be like extending it or adding,
Sure.
Explain that a little bit more for me.
Well, the holidays are coming.
Yes, they are.
So one cool thing that we're doing right now is someone asked us for a Latin track.
Okay.
Specifically, I think it was they wanted a Mexican vibe, but they wanted to be a festive holiday Mexican vibe.
Okay.
Right, and we're a little shy on that specific, ask. And that's actually not uncommon, is for someone to say, hey, listen, we want this very specific thing. Or they might even say that they have a sound alike. They want, they give us a reference of an artist, a popular artist, for instance. But they want that song to be, holiday, for instance, or they want a violin in there, or, some sort of specific cue points. So we're able to sit down and add those elements. Or, for instance, someone might say, I really love this, but I don't want the trumpet, or I don't want, so we can add, we can subtract. We can lengthen, we can shorten. Shortening is never a problem. Anybody that knows how to edit can shorten, but to be able to extend a piece where there is nothing, and create, that's an example of customization as well. So really, it's like Play-Doh. You can take what's already there and turn it into something else.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That would add a lot of value
Absolutely.
to any project.
Yeah.
Very cool. So can you tell me about a time when you took a risk in your business and it didn't really pan out the way you thought?
Yeah. We have all kinds of marketing techniques that we use, and sometimes they fall a little flat. Let's just put it that way. I think that, when you're out there trying to make a name for yourself and you're out there trying to separate yourself from the men to the boys, or, separate the men from the boys, you have to take risks. You know, we've had some sort of online, so during the pandemic, for instance, you know, we'll have sort of groups of people that will collect together, groups of clients that maybe don't mesh as well together as you might expect, or sometimes we have events that might fall a little bit more flat. We do a trivia night now where we have clients that all get together and we put together the trivia questions.
Are they all music related, or do you do all sorts of genres?
We try to do it music related. You know what I mean? And
keep it on brand.
Yeah, keep it on brand. And you know, some of those have been successful, and some of them haven't been as successful. I remember one that ended up in an endless tiebreaker, and it made everybody feel very uncomfortable. You know, because you want people to like, oh, that was a lot of fun.
Right.
But then you know, it's like an hour later, and there's still a tie, and everybody's like, okay,
I got other things to do.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You know, but look, we're in music here, and we're trying to have fun, so. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I know we'd kind of touched on like the pre-roll thing before. So can you walk me through a little bit more about how you guys are integrated into advertising, and especially how possibly streaming has changed what you guys do?
Sure. Yeah. Well, as it pertains to advertising, you know, we work with big advertising agencies. We work with production companies, edit and post houses. So what folks will do is they'll typically reach out to us and say, hey, listen, I have this project. Of course, they can search for everything on our website, but a lot of the producers and creative directors don't have the time to do that, and we know the library better than anybody, obviously, right? So we'll put together playlists and send it out to them, and then, you know, our music is in the ether. They're probably reaching out to other companies as well. So it becomes a creative, you know, decision. Once that's done, we lock down sync licenses with them, and a lot of times those are for YouTube. You know, YouTube pre-roll advertising. You'll see a lot of our work on YouTube. Lately, it's been a lot more social media. TikTok is becoming a thing. You know, it's been a huge thing, but I think that it sort of their approach to how they're interacting with companies like ours is changing as well. So, yeah, I mean, you know, we lock down licenses in a number of different ways. Usually, we determine how things are used based on, you know, edits, cut downs, length of spot. You know, there's all sorts of different factors that go into the sort of rates that folks pay. But yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So, I mean, specifically, are you asking about, you know?
I mean, specifically, has this kind of, it feels like the industry from TV and film has kind of morphed into streaming, whether it's, you know, on your Netflix or whether it's other VOD channels.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that has changed what you do at all? Or what, you know, where you're going after
it does.
Your relationships with?
Yeah, so in that context, you know, a lot of these folks, in some ways it's the same as it used to be, where the networks had relationships with, you know, companies like mine, and instead of doing sort of one-offs, they would do what we would call blanket licenses, where companies would be able to use the entire library whenever they wanted. So now I think that our focus has shifted a little bit more. You know, the networks and everybody kind of know us, but as things have changed, now we're talking about Netflix and Amazon and all these other sort of streaming channels. There's new relationships to be made. There's new, you know, barriers to be broken. But, you know, we still do a lot of work, you know, with these companies, and, you know, we're always in pursuit of new opportunities.
It's so interesting. I mean, it's so different than my day-to-day. So it's like...
There's also another sector of the company.
Okay.
That kind of does original music.
Okay.
And we have bands and artists.
Cool.
So that might be worth
let's explore that.
mentioning as well.
Okay.
So, the production music library is kind of its own thing where
Yeah.
the music is in stock, but we're also able, through our sister company, the Music Playground, to provide completely a gamut of musical services. So essentially anything that you would need. We can compose a track from nothing, right? So starting at scratch. And we also have a roster, of about 300 bands and artists that we represent them for Sync. So they're out there kind of doing their own thing. And we license their music for use in all sorts of different things, from trailers to films. So yeah, and we also have just started a label, actually, where our artists will compose specifically for advertising. So that's kind of a cool new twist on just us going out there and pursuing, sort of production music composers.
So, and having the label, how does that, like, walk me through a little bit what that means for both you and, somebody using it for the project and the artist?
Sure. Well, essentially, when we started the label, the idea was to find music that is more geared to the project than perhaps just what's floating in these folks' catalog. And it makes things easier to license because we would have access to both the recording and also the composition. So, there's a lot of clearances involved with music licensing, both on the synchronization side and on the master side, which is the composition and the recording. So what bringing this all in-house does is make this whole process a lot more fluid and easier for the client.
And they can really customize and figure out something that is even more specific and unique to them.
That's right, and they have sort of an idea of who the artist is, and we can sort of feed the client ideas for who the artist is and what the sound will be like, and then we can start diving into actually the creative of the project.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's a really exciting part of the business.
Yeah.
And between the two sides, is there one side that you like to do more? Is there, a little bit more creativity involved in one versus the other? Or are they both kind of just two different ways to split?
Yeah, I mean, I think that really what's the most fun for me is when a client comes to me and says, this is the project, and I don't know how to achieve this goal. The most fulfilling thing for me is to be able to utilize all the tools in our toolbox to be able to give them exactly what they need, and to be able to do that efficiently and to make the experience enjoyable, for them. I mean, this is, we're supposed to have fun. It's music, you know what I mean? So, it's nice when people come to me knowing exactly what they want, but I get the most fulfillment knowing, hey, listen, we have this whole gamut of creative services, and we can really, utilize all this to get you exactly what you need.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
So, going back to talking how you got into this particular side of the music business, and you did it through an internship and kind of learned the business that way. Was there anybody else along your journey that helped support you and you learned a lot from in order to push into this side of the business?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I should call out Tom Eaton, who Tom is the VP of Music for Advertising for Universal Music Publishing Group, and he was the one that hired me initially at Universal, and he's just been a huge driving force. I look up to Tom a lot. And there have been a number of mentors along the way that have kind of led me in different directions. Leeds Levy, who is an industry legend, I'll call out as someone that really got me interested in the A&R side of music publishing, putting together a song, finding the songwriters, getting into the studio, having sort of an effect on the way that a song is written and turns out, and then finding an artist to record it. So there, in music publishing, there's a whole long process. And then at the end of that process, it's how do we sync this? Can we sync it, and how do we sync it? So yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to have a lot of very talented people as the wind behind my wings along the way.
Nice. So everybody has a slightly different definition of what success is and what it looks like. What is your definition of success? And by that definition, do you feel like you are a successful person already?
Yeah. So success to me is growth and change. And I feel like, you know, as a musician, if you're not getting your ass kicked, then you're not learning anything. You know, it's easy to go into a gig and be the best player on the stage, and it's easy for someone to say, "Hey, like what a great performer you are," right? But when you walk off the stage and you feel like, man, I could have played better, or what just happened, which still happens. Addressing that and growing from that is really one of the things that I find drives success. And I heard just recently, actually Denzel Washington say kind of the way that I feel. He articulated it, but it's so true that you can have dreams, but you have to have goals too. So a dream is nothing but a dream if there's no goals involved. So I think that success to me is combining those moments of sort of defeat, turning them into growth and change, and using kind of goals every day, every week, every month to achieve where you're trying to go.
Very cool. So would you consider yourself successful by that definition then?
I'm well on my way. I'm well on my way to success.
You're growing every day, learning from your setbacks and your defeats?
That's right, yeah. I find that I'm sometimes more successful than other times. But I'm pretty confident that we'll get there. Yeah, and I think it's, they say that the white belt turns into the black belt, and then once the black belt becomes a true black belt, he realizes that he's only a white belt. That's kind of what a black belt is all about, and that's how I look at it. I'm on an adventure. I'm growing, and I hope I never stop growing professionally. And to that end, I have been successful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Charlie, for being on The Business Of and teaching us all about music licensing today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.